So you want to get faster. You want to be faster and more agile on the field. Maybe you want to run a little faster on the track. Hey, maybe you just want to run a 5K a little bit faster. Well, newsflash, it has less to do with technique and form and just getting down to the science of the perfect shoe, and it has more to do with force. Force is simple, okay? All we have to be paying attention to is how much force we can actually emit relative to our body weight. And I'm gonna break down how you can improve that. And I'm gonna leverage some of the really cool science from a particular guy known as Ryan Flaherty. Okay, he's an awesome guy that's done a lot of stuff with NFL Combine guys. Anyway, point is, I'm gonna break down how you can improve force and ultimately get faster. But first, you're tuned into the internet's leading performance, nutrition, and fat loss channel with new videos on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Also, we post videos just about every other day now too. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button, then make sure you hit that bell icon. That's gonna allow you to turn on notifications so you know whenever I go live. Also wanna make sure you check out ButcherBox down in the description below. There's a special link, so after you finish this video, you can check them out. They are a company that allows you to get grass-fed, grass-finished meat delivered right to your doorstep, cheaper than it is at the grocery store. We're talking the highest quality meat, and you never even have to go to the grocery store at all. Like, you can get it for a couple clicks of a button. Plus, there's a special discount for anyone that watches my videos. So after you watch this video, go ahead and check them out. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into this. So first off, force. What the heck is it? Okay, that is literally the power in which you are pushing off of the ground with when you're running. Now, speed is really a factor of just a couple of things. Okay, it's our stride frequency and it's our overall stride length. Okay, how many strides does it take us to get to a certain point? We want less strides because that means we are pushing off with more force and essentially flying through the air faster. Now, Ryan Flaherty's done an amazing job, so I gotta give credit where credit's due, and he's got some amazing stuff out there on the internet talking about this. Essentially, what he figured out was that there is something called a force number. Okay, and this force number is the amount of force that you push off relative to your weight. So for example, if you're big and strong and you can emit a lot of force, that's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't mean that your force number is good. Your force number is your force relative to your weight. So if you have a 250-pound person that has decent force, and then you have a 180-pound person that has slightly less force than the 250-pound person, but they're lighter, their relative force is better, which means they're able to propel their lighter body faster. And there's ways that you can actually get yourself to have more force. You see, Ryan Flaherty uses something as a force plate treadmill. So the way that he's measured force is literally with a treadmill that measures how much force is being pushed down. Now, he's used it with amazing sprinters, he's used it with NFL Combine guys, and again, I'm just throwing him a bone because I want to give credit where credit's due. Now, if you look at sprinters, like for example, Usain Bolt, the fastest guy in the world, he's got the best force that you're going to find. He's got the best force number. Now, when you look at the ranking of sprinters, the first place sprinter is going to have the highest force number. The second place sprinter is going to have the second highest force number. The third place is going to have the third highest force number. It's all related. You don't ever see someone that is in fourth place with a higher force number than the person that was in third. Force equals speed. Relative force equals speed. Okay, so the point is, how do we get this better? How do we get our force better? How do we get our relative force better? Well, first off, you got to be lighter. So you got to figure out a way to get lighter. But that begs the question, well, getting lighter usually decreases your strength. And a lot of times it happens. You lose weight, you lose muscle. You lose weight, you lose strength. So how do we do this? Well, we start looking at the different ways that muscles contract. And I'll talk about that in a second. But as far as the legs are concerned, the first thing you really want to look at is utilizing what's called a hex bar. Okay, hex bars are really powerful. So instead of doing a deadlift with a barbell that's held out in front of you, you're using a hex bar where you're holding it at the sides. It's just a lot more ergonomic. It places the weight kind of in line with the center of mass. So it means you get a lot of strength. You can push through your heels, you can push through the center of your feet directly up through your center of mass and get a lot more force. You can build power that way. In fact, the Journal of Strength and Conditioning actually published a study that found that 1 rep maximums were significantly higher with a hex bar than they were with a barbell when you're doing a traditional deadlift. The hex bar ends up looking a lot more like a traditional squat than a deadlift, and it's 90% muscle recruitment. So you're not having to have all these different biomechanics in play just to get the form. You're just 90% muscle recruitment. So it does get you strong. But then it begs the question again, how do we utilize this hex bar without gaining weight in the process? Okay, we all want to build muscle and force, but we don't necessarily want to get heavier. Well, that's where we look at the concentric and the eccentric contractions. You see, a concentric contraction helps generate force. Again, to use the example of a bicep curl, when I'm curling a dumbbell and doing a bicep curl, this is the contraction. This is the contractile force. Okay, this is the concentric motion. This is the eccentric. Well, with a deadlift, as you're standing up, that's the concentric. But then when you come down, that's the eccentric. You want to build the concentric because that is what's going to generate force. And you want to somewhat disregard the eccentric. Okay, so you want to use that hex bar and you want to stand up and then essentially you want to drop it. That sounds crazy. Like everyone in the gym is going to think you're just obnoxious. So do this in your own garage. But the reality is it works well. Okay, now the eccentric contractions really are what build muscle. And we don't necessarily want this in this case. So there's a couple different theories as to why an eccentric contraction, like when you're actually resisting the force of a load, there's some theories as to why that builds muscle. So there's one theory where we're talking about the actin and myosin basically stretching to a point where there's a micro trauma. And then there's the cross bridge theory, which is basically an expansion of that. But then there's also a chemical theory. The chemical theory suggests that there's something called phosphatidic acid that releases during an eccentric contraction. So we actually have sort of a chemical response. Because we're stretching the muscle and we're putting under such stress, this phosphatidic acid leaks out and triggers muscle protein synthesis. Again, if we're trying to build muscle and we're trying to increase lean body mass, we would want that. But if we're trying to just get force without the muscle, we don't want that eccentric contraction. So it's simple. Use a hex bar, use dumbbells if you don't have a hex bar, just have them go along the sides of your body, and then you're gonna pick them up and you're gonna drop them, and you're gonna try to work on that force as much as you possibly can. And then in conjunction with that, you're going to do your cardio. You're going to do your high intensity interval training as much as you possibly can, and you're going to implement plyometrics into the case. Okay, plyometrics are going to increase that contractile strength because you're allowing the muscle to expand and then contract and kind of recoil at a fast rate. So you combine that ability to recoil at a fast rate along with more force, along with dropping weight, and I promise you, the math doesn't lie, the physics don't lie. You're going to get faster and you're going to feel better in the process. So anyway, I can expand on this more and hopefully I can get Ryan Flaherty on the channel. We can talk about this in a little bit more detail. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel and I'll see you in the next video.